So I'd been putting off washing my car for a long time, and I called up my sister and we decided the other day to go get our cars washed together, one after the other. And it was perfect because it was a warmer day, which is hard to come by in Minnesota at this time of year. And it's a rare opportunity to actually get your car washed because usually when it gets cold, it can freeze things and that's no good. So we went, got our cars washed, and then pulled over into a nearby lot just to touch base and catch up. And we got out of the car and we looked at our cars and they were gleaming clean. We were like, good for us, pat ourselves on the back. We finally washed our cars. It's been way too long. But then we immediately started noticing all these tiny little blemishes that were still there, probably because we had waited too long to wash our cars. And we kind of started criticizing how clean the cars were, which was no fault of anyone. It was one of those automated washes, so it's like you kind of get what you pay for. But then I suddenly realized, why are we being so persnickety about this and perfectionistic? Why are we dialing in on the little blemishes and imperfections of things still stuck to the cars when they're actually looking so much better than they looked before, and we can always wash the cars again? After that experience, I kind of realized, hey, you know what? This is a great example of all or nothing thinking. Because I think a lot of us humans experience this where we feel like we need to do something the correct way or all the way, or we just avoid it and don't do it at all. And I feel like that is so true when it comes to decluttering and to minimalism in general. We sometimes put it off for months and months. We don't look at the backroom closet. We don't deal with the pile of stuff in the basement. We just put it out of sight, hopefully out of mind, and we don't deal with it. And then maybe when we get some kind of momentum or motivation, we suddenly decide to tackle it, and we feel like we need to do the entire house. We need to do it all and make this huge transformation. But then when we can't really achieve that, we kind of give up because we're not doing it all. We're not minimizing to the degree that we'd like to, and so we just kind of throw our hands up and then go back to the avoidance ritual. But what I've realized as I've done more declutters over time is that no declutter is going to be perfect, and there is this kind of ebb and flow in the process of decluttering. Some days are better than others, some declutters are better than others, and realistically there's not going to be one day where you declutter your entire home and you never have a problem with stuff ever again. It's about a healthy mindset and approaching your declutters one declutter at a time, one day at a time. If you're intimidated to make big strides, just start with something simple, like cleaning out a desk drawer or a junk drawer and seeing where that takes you and how that feels for you. Because I also think that decluttering is very self-reinforcing. Once you see the benefits of even a tiny declutter, you'll find that it's very almost addicting or appealing because the payoff is so huge. Every time you open that little drawer, you feel so much better. It feels so much more streamlined. It's easier to find things. You feel good about yourself for the accomplishment of doing that little declutter. And as you do that more and more, it just builds on itself. So even though Marie Kondo says to, pull everything in a category, put it on a bed and go through it all, even if you're not at that point, start small, see what little changes you can make and experience the positive ramifications. And then you'll be more and more motivated to make the bigger changes. But if you want to start bigger, another great place to start is what Fumio Sasaki calls the clutter nest in his book, Goodbye Things. Basically the nest where all that extra stuff accumulates in your home. So quite often it's some kind of basement or storage area or garage or back closet. So all those out of view places that are in the back of your mind kind of nagging at you, telling you it is time to deal with me. It's time to declutter. It's time to do something with all this stuff. Those areas are often really hard to tackle because they can be really intimidating and overwhelming because there's just so much stuff in those areas. And even the idea of physically going through all the belongings, if it's heavy or packed in tightly, that can be overwhelming. But I really think that tackling that clutter nest where the clutter breeds and where it tends to end up can make a big difference, because what happens is as your clutter nest gets full, all the extra clutter starts leaking into the rest of your home, into the rooms where you actually spend time. So if you don't tackle the nest that's fueling the clutter in your space, you'll end up spinning your wheels in the long run. So I think That's another thing, is to just say, I'm gonna attack my clutter nest. A lot of people have them. I would argue, at least here in the US, most people have them somewhere. And I don't even think you need to start too big when it comes to the clutter nest. If it's overwhelming, you can start small. Just do 5-10 minutes here or there, decluttering a few things, slowly making a dent in how much stuff you have in that storage area. So not having all or nothing thinking in that I need to tackle the entire clutter nest in one day. Instead saying, what can I do today? Physically, emotionally, behaviorally, where am I motivated? What can I actually get done today? What's doable for me? And do just that bit. Another area where I think we tend to fall into the trap of all or nothing thinking that gets in the way of our paths toward minimalism is how we think about collecting and shopping. Quite often, that is also a place where all or nothing thinking really gets in our way. And in some ways, this is actually the more important part in pursuing minimalism, because as much as you're decluttering, if you're just continuing to collect, that clutter nest will build right back up just as quickly as you got rid of it. Let me give you a couple of examples. I think sometimes when we've been avoiding shopping and we just don't do it and we've been really good about it, suddenly once we break the seal and we start to shop, it just gets out of hand. We almost lose control. Especially this can happen around the holidays, which has been happening recently. It's so easy to shop, especially with tons of deals, tons of reasons to buy gifts or to get decorations. And then once you get in the habit of purchasing, it becomes that much easier to keep it going. But what you'll also find is then the guilt builds on itself. You feel worse about yourself. You realize maybe that was a bad choice financially, but somehow once you've broken that seal, it's hard to clamp the lid back on. But realistically, in life, we're gonna occasionally have to purchase something and collect something. And so I think that being successful at minimalism is about learning to be able to go halfway, learning to be able to say, yes, I need to buy this thing, but I don't need to buy a bunch of other things too just because I'm buying one thing. And similarly, just because I recently went shopping a bunch for the holidays doesn't mean I need to keep doing it. And to catch yourself in that process of shopping and stop it before it gets out of hand. And I think identifying it as all or nothing thinking, as this trap that your brain is falling into, can help you climb out of that rut and not fall into that trap. So I guess what I'm challenging myself to do in the near future is to really pay attention to my thinking process when I'm considering purchasing something. Also, when I'm avoiding decluttering or not addressing the nest. What is going through my mind, and is it all or nothing thinking? Do I make excuses for not decluttering, like, oh, I can't do that today, I don't have much energy, when really I could still probably fit in like 5 minutes of picking out a couple of things to declutter? Or recognizing when I start to think, oh, I need to add something to the cart to get free shipping on this order, because quite often that thinking leads me to end up spending way more than I planned, and also to accumulate stuff that realistically I'm just not going to use in the long run. So I'm going to work even more to pay attention to these thoughts that are inherently based in all or nothing thinking and try to find a more balanced, nuanced view of the situation. I don't need to do it all today. I don't need to do it perfectly. I can buy one thing without buying 3 things. I can have made a mistake shopping in the past without continuing to make that mistake in the future. I can make choices about my behavior and not feel like I need to be perfectionistic about it. I hope that maybe someone else relates to this. Let me know if you do in the comments below, if you've experienced something like this too and how you've dealt with it. I'd love to hear. This video definitely included a pretty short and simple concept of just addressing all or nothing thinking in the context of minimalism, but it's honestly so important and something I'm going to be focused on in weeks to come. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. It's a great way to support the channel. You can also subscribe below for more videos like this one. I have a bunch of bingeable content, a backlog of videos to check out if you're interested. Anyway, thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.